The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
We have a very special show for all of you folks out there. We have a very special show. We're leading into the weekend, so we got to always make sure we hit it. This is the driver, man. We're letting the big dog eat. And I mean that metaphorically, and I mean that quite literally, because the big dog is here. Once again, Aaron Bruski back on the pod. It must mean we're getting close to the season if you and I are talking this frequently in a non-text message format. What up, big dog?
Woof woof.
Yeah, I had to woof you this morning, didn't I?
Can we work in the office joke about woof?
Please do, and please do it in a way that doesn't screw it up the way I normally do.
I thought you did a better job than I did. Okay, so what's his name?
Ryan. I know his name is Ryan, because when I was younger, I had a lot of people say, you kind of look like Ryan from The Office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't he PJ or TJ something or other? Anyway, he creates the app Woof.
BJ Novak.
Yeah, that guy. He's really funny. He creates the app that hits all of your social media devices at once. And it's called a Woof, Dan.
So I had to woof you. I couldn't. I
can't explain it either. It's like a funny joke that shouldn't be told. I can't explain it.
Well, I could not contact Brew for about a 45-minute stretch, which is terrifying to me. Normally, there's no time during the day where I can't get you for 45 minutes, so I had to woof you. And then all of a sudden, you were just in the podcast, and I was like,
"Yeah." For those who don't know, I got an Amber Alert on my phone. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Are you alive?
You know how they're testing the emergency broadcast system? I think that might even be today. This show's airing on Friday. I think it's happening today. I think I was able to hack the system and test it out to see if you could find Brew. So if everybody got an alert on their phone that was like Aaron Bruski missing, that's my fault. Sorry, everybody. Sorry.
Sorry. You know, down in San Luis Obispo, where I went to college, they have a nuclear power plant down there, and it's really kind of great. I don't know, now in the Twitter age, maybe this doesn't happen. They test that notification system. It's basically a big old loud noise that if you hear this noise, everybody's dying. And we were like freshmen in college, and that thing went off, and all the girls just started bawling. We're gonna die.
Wait, this podcast took a very dark turn very fast. I just needed to find out where you were. That's all. Nobody needs to die.
You need a better woof system.
Yeah,
Dan.
Where's my boy BJ Novak with my woof system? So what's up, Brew? How was the last? You and I did a pod 2 weeks ago, right? How have the last 2 weeks been? How are sales at the Hoob? How's the B150? I've been telling the story on air of Brew's Sunday to Monday all-nighter getting the B150 ready to add to the draft guide, and then getting a text from you at like 10 saying, "Well, I'm going to sleep now." 10 a.m., by the way.
Every year it's like this, the kind of the rush of preseason starting, and there's just so much. So you go into this, you've got your preconceived notions, and then you see a film on somebody, and you're just like, whoa, that's different. And you got to decide, that balance between it's a preseason game and what are you seeing with your eyes. The news starts flying in really quickly. And of course, there's the B150 release for the Draft Guide subscribers on 10/1, and it all sort of culminates at the same time. I think the last couple of years, it's all been surrounding a weekend, which has been helpful. Sometimes this hits on a Wednesday, and I don't know, for whatever reason, that's just more chaotic. I think the real world expects people to wake up and go to sleep at a normal time. When that stuff happens on the weekend, it's a little bit more culturally acceptable. These 2 to 3 day all-nighters. Yeah, no, it's good. It's sales are good, actually great. I don't want to give out the exact numbers, but very good. Like really, really, really good.
Well, thank you, everybody. I think that's where we're going with that, right?
I'm happy because it's a reflection of the hard work that everybody has put into not just the site but the guide, and we're starting to get big. I noticed that literally everybody that plays in my money leagues, when they shoot across the owner list, every single one of them, it feels like, subscribes to the draft guide or the early Bruski 150. And I'm drafting and I'm surrounded by guys that have the draft guide. And it's just like, okay, what do I do now? All right, well, I know that player's not coming back to me. And so it's fun. I really enjoy this time of year. And I'm excited to talk some stuff with you here.
Yeah, okay, so here's the plan. First thing is, hello, everyone. I'm Dan Besbris, at Dan Besbris on Twitter. Aaron Bruski is at Aaron Bruski. You can, of course, follow Hoopball Fantasy. I've seen a lot of new followers, by the way, of Hoopball Fantasy, even more than everything else. It's like folks are now, this is blurb hunting season, I guess. I was not aware that was a time of year, but you probably could have told me that. Yeah,
the follower count's gone up quite a bit, and it's that blurb feed is really where you want to be. And I was actually writing blurbs last night, finally finding time to write more blurbs. That is the lifeblood for me personally of assessing these guys, really getting engaged. And, each blurb you write is like a little mini test, so you kind of retest your understanding of a certain player's value or a team situation. So I'm excited to be blurbing again. It's been really hard to do that with the Bruski 150. Sort of, I don't want to say it's done because it's never really done until the season starts. But with that behind me, we can kind of push forward into the stuff I normally do, and I'll also be writing more this year, which is exciting. The business has grown to the point where I can actually peel back a little bit on some of the non-fantasy stuff, which that just helps. It helps. I wish I could blurb every single night, because I feel like at that point I would be unstoppable. And for those of you who are looking to crack into the industry, I know we got a lot of folks that listen that, they want to get involved in some way, shape, or form. Pardon me, as I've completely lost my voice this last week. The act of writing blurbs is the single, for me, most important thing a basketball analyst can do, because it's it just sharpens the sword. You're really in there, kind of in the middle of it all. So if that's something that you want to do, you want to write fantasy, we are looking for contributors right now. Just hit us up.
What's the best way to hit us up? Twitter? Is there a support account they could email?
The email account is teamhoopball@hoop-ball.com.
Ah, okay.
And we just started putting out ads. We got a great team right now, and actually, pardon me, I want to say almost all of our blurb shifts are filled up.
Oh, outstanding.
Which, look, when I got my start, I emailed the great Dr. A, and actually I emailed Greg Rosenthal before that over at Roto-World. I didn't hear back for a year. and I was just blogging away on my own little blog. I was just that was my outlet, my creative outlet for basketball. Thank God I was doing that, because when they emailed me, or when they looked at my email probably a year later, I'm guessing they were like, oh, hey, let's click into that guy's blog and see what's going on there. And it was still up to date. So,
and they were just like, this loser's still doing his blog.
Right. And then they were like, so you still want to do this? And it was crazy. It was like, oh my God, sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so the journey began.
I hope you were doing video logs as well. Something real lame, like, the corner of your bedroom or an unmade bed or something like that. Something super unprofessional.
That sounds like somebody I know.
Yeah, I've never met that guy.
But I did do some video, Dan, and you know this. You've seen the video.
Have I?
Well, yeah. Now, the video. You didn't see the email from Scott last night?
Oh, I haven't actually watched it yet. Oh, so this is something maybe I guess we could. There's so many things going on. Okay, well, let's jump into. Let's do a little bit of fantasy stuff, and then we got some more. Every time I talk to you, we got all these things we got to mention to people, but I know they're gonna come after me with pitchforks if we don't talk about something fantasy related. I want to talk about some videos that's coming later in the podcast. I want to talk about our listener leagues that's coming later in the show. I want to talk more about the draft guide that's coming later in the show. But the main topic on today's podcast, and I've been teasing it earlier this week, is that we got Brew on. He's got his ear to the ground, sometimes because he's fallen asleep
and on the ground.
He's just lying sideways on the ground. Although, Brew, I heard that. No, I'm not even going to get into this joke. The there are names.
Excellent restraint, Dan.
Yeah, self-restraint. I'm practicing this year. There are names out there, and I've got about 10 or so of them that I've been watching Twitter, I've been watching forums, I've been watching Reddit, all the different places where you can sort of get an idea of who's being talked about. And these guys are getting called either sleepers or breakout candidates. Everybody's got their fun name for it. And so what I thought would be kind of fun and enlightening, honestly, because, again, you have a better feel for what these things really mean as someone who's seen this happen a million times. Are these guys sleepers? Are they no longer asleep? Are they like snoozing? Or are they so wide awake that trying to invest in one of these players, you're going to have to overpay? So this is going to be sleepers versus not sleepers. I'll come up with a better name when I'm titling the podcast, but for right now, that's what we're going to be doing. Brew, are you ready to tell me if these guys are sleepers?
I had like 3 different sidebars there. Like,
I know.
Didn't you call them Awakeners? Didn't you call the re-release of the box score breakdown Re-Begins?
I did, yeah. And I made that editor's note. That's another thing I want to talk about on this pod.
And wouldn't it be great? You know, there's all these comedies that remake things like Disaster Movie and things like that. What about like Batman Re-Begins?
Yeah, I want Michelle Pfeiffer. I want Danny DeVito.
You want to go old school?
I want to go old school. I want Batman
and you
Returns.
brought up the forums. You know, before I forget, the forums, guys. This is amazing. The forums are popping. Like,
dude, it's happening again.
It's crazy in there. It's really intelligent fantasy discussion. I just had a conversation with one of our developers who's going to take more of a kind of personal interest in developing the forums. Like, you know, those things are going to grow. They're going to change. They're going to become more broad. There's going to be more NBA level discussion in there. But as far as the fantasy stuff goes in there, it is just, I mean, I think I get an email every time somebody posts something. And I'm just kind of in awe of the conversation that's going on there. So I highly recommend you get in the forums.
I think most people are on an earlier time zone than me, because when I wake up here on the West Coast, I have about 14 unread emails that are all just new forum posts every day. But it's great. There was one really fun discussion that was happening between a forum poster and the great Eric Ong, just about the benefits of, or not so benefits, of taking Anthony Davis or passing on Anthony Davis in the number 1 slot, how you could build your team if you didn't take him number 1, how you build it if you do, the guys that are available in the 2nd, 3rd round when it comes back to you. This is all, like, it's not philosophical, so to speak, but it is big picture stuff, in addition to your sort of run-of-the-mill, you know, what does my team look like to you? So that, hoop-ball.com, click on the forums tab. There's so many things I want to go over. But the first thing is Aaron
Fantasy.
Bruski. Aaron Bruski, is this guy a sleeper? And the first name on the list, and again, sleeper, breakout candidate, whatever you want to call it, the first name on the list is Donovan Mitchell. I've heard a lot of Donovan Mitchell stuff this offseason, which makes sense because he went buck wild in the playoffs. He had a great stretch when most of the Jazz were injured last year. And yet, and this is me trying to give both sides of the same argument, I'm going to try to walk right down the middle with these guys best I can. And yet, at the end of all of this, in a 9-category format, he was number 54 on a per-game basis last year. The reason he had a much higher rank was that he played 79 out of the 82 games. Is Donovan Mitchell set to really bust loose in the traditional sense, or is there a lack of peripheral stats that will hold him back? What do you think?
He's going to bust loose. And so it just depends on where you're ranking him and where you're drafting him. I'm seeing him go a little too early, in competitive leagues, like really competitive leagues. Generally, 2nd round. I haven't seen him slip to the 3rd round yet. I think I've seen him slip to the turn on round 2 and round 3. And unfortunately, I've built into my ranking for him that he takes a big step forward, not necessarily statistically, because there's really only so much higher he can go without, I don't know, like a different change, a different system. I mean, Utah runs a really slow pace. There's, players there that share the ball a little bit, but, they do lean on him for the majority of their offense. So he's in a good spot. You're about peripheral stats. Yeah, there's some stuff there. He's not. I'll use Giannis as an example. Giannis can fill up the box score like nobody else. He's not in that realm because he can't get the steals and blocks at that rate. But he's going to break out. And watching the Jazz last night, I don't know what their number is in Vegas. I got to go to Tahoe at some point and do all those bets, but pretty sure I'm taking the over on the Jazz.
Well, lucky for you, I can pull that number up in a heartbeat. I have it on a list.
Hit me with it.
So
what am I in for?
Okay, so two things coming back. First thing, Utah Jazz, the line at opening, and I don't know where it's moved since then, so I with a caveat here. It opened
give me 47.
It opened at 48.5.
Okay.
Yeah, so it opened relatively high. By all accounts, the analytics have them in the 50s. Even last year, if Gobert doesn't miss 2.5 months, they'd cakewalk into the 50s. For Donovan Mitchell, here is again sort of the give and the take. If he's getting drafted around the turn in the second round, coming back at like between 23 and 25, roughly 22 to 24, whatever you want to call it, this is a guy who last year, 3.7 assists to 2.7 turnovers. Not a great ratio there. Turnovers were high, but not crazy high. 3.8 free throws, 80.5%. That's fine, but it doesn't really help you much. High volume, 43.5% shooting from the field. Not great. 1.5 steals was solid. 2.5 threes was good. 20 and change points was also solid. Which of those things improves that allows him to make the leap from a top 55? Again, this is a per game breakdown here for him just on the moment, in a 9-cat at least. How does he make that leap of 2.5 to 3 rounds? Which of those categories is the one that he fixes, so to speak?
Well, he's going to fix. Fix is not the right term. He's going to expand and improve in just about every single category. And you can bet against some of that. Like, sure, you want to bet that his free throw percentage goes down. So I'm not going to do that, but you could bet that. That kind of thing does happen with players. But no, we're talking about a future MVP candidate here. He's athletically and skills-wise just on a different level than most NBA players in his rookie season. And that's what people are seeing. So I think that, it's tough, though, because in these competitive leagues, he's not going at 23, 24. He's going at like 20. I've built in that level of improvement for him, and I can't see him going higher than 24 in an 8-cat league. And I don't have the 9-cat number right off the top of my head, but I'm going to guess it's like within 5 or something.
Yeah, just a tiny bit lower. He's just a little bit worse than league average.
I'll grab it. And you know what? Hey, listeners, this is some free stuff for you. Donovan Mitchell, 29. He was 5.
Yeah.
Right on the dot. So
he's going to be good, but he's not going to be quite as good as people are thinking. So you feel this is one where the hype train has actually gone a little bit too hypey.
I just think that if you're sitting there looking at 20 and you don't like the guy that say you've got ranked at 20, right? And I'll use an example. Like, John Wall is a guy that I think some people have some question marks about. I'm pretty high on Wall in relation to where he's going on a draft board. But say you don't like him. Say you don't like Devin Booker for whatever reason. Say you don't like Jimmy Butler because of his question mark situation. Mitchell I think that might be why he's going as high as he is. People are like, well, these other guys, Wall's got the knee thing. Booker's just Booker. Booker's always had some weird issues. Butler, question mark.
Kyrie,
and then you
Chris Paul. Yeah, there's a lot of names in that second round.
You get into that realm of like, okay, I want this young, healthy guy who, by the way, Donovan Mitchell is not exactly healthy. He limped his way through the playoffs, and people have been sort of keeping an eye out on that foot just to see, is there anything there? And it doesn't seem like there's a there. But yeah, no, Mitchell is, I'll put it to you this way. I wouldn't mind having him, late in the second round. I'm going to look at that and say, oh, my draft is screwed.
Okay, so this one's pretty close to right then. This is a hype train that's taken him just about far enough, maybe a tiny bit past his point, but not by much.
Yeah, but also keep in mind, too, I think you're going to see some slippage of Mitchell in certain kind of like in leagues that don't really conform to ADP, and it's tough because a lot of the draft applets out there, whatever they're called, they incorporate now projections from people like Roto World. I think that's pretty much it. But those, like, as far as then the rest of the applets out there, they incorporate projections from people that pay attention to Roto World or Hoopball or, Basketball Monster. Let me say this about the industry in general. I know Ryan Nouse does a lot over at Roto World. He's amazing. People are getting better at this. I just noticed it in my, evaluation of what else is out there. In, say, 2-3 seasons ago, we just cakewalk over people. It's just like, it's not even close, and you look at some of the B150 successes, even last year, you look at Joe Ingles, Torian Prince. These are guys that were rated at like 110, and we're putting them at 40. Everybody's like, you guys are crazy. But it's hitting. This year, I'm not seeing these big swings and misses by the other side. So anyway, ADP is a lot closer. But as far as Donovan Mitchell goes, I think there is still people. He plays in Utah. He sort of went underneath the radar. I mean, people that watch the playoffs definitely did get to see him, but by and large, I don't think the public understands that this is a guy who's a future MVP candidate.
Well, I was just happy to get to work the term buck wild into my analysis of a player. Next on the list, Ben Simmons. I'm keeping us in the second round here. This is one I wanted to bring up because when guys are punty in a particular category, and Simmons definitely is. His free throw shooting is just terrible. Medium to high volume, 56% will crush you. But what he does in, the defensive categories, rebounds, assists, field goal percent, he has 5 categories where he is well above league average. Yeah, he doesn't take any three-pointers, and his scoring was fine and probably improving year over year. That type of player becomes oddly polarizing. He was... And this is, again, I'm just going on a per-game thing. He played 81 games last year, so that was a really good thing for him. On a per-game basis, in 9 category formats, he was number 51 last season. 5-1. That's nowhere near where he's going in 9 category drafts so far this year. 8 category, there's probably a little bit closer. I'm thinking the window's a little bit tighter there because turnovers were one of the things holding him back. But I'm seeing Simmons go anywhere from like 15 to 22 regardless of whether or not turnovers are involved in a league. Has the hype train gone too far? Has the hype train not gone far enough? Is this someone you can find yourself drafting and not punting free throws? Bruski, is Ben Simmons... okay, I got to find a better way to add. Is he a sleeper? He's obviously not a sleeper, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid are going very early in drafts. In fact, I've seen Simmons, Embiid, and Mitchell go on the turn after the first round. So like 13, 14, 15. So these guys are buzzy guys. I don't have Simmons as high. And I do note in the Bruski 150 that he has a lot of variance. And after watching Philly in the preseason so far, I had a couple interesting observations there. Starting with Embiid, because I think everything sort of begins and ends with Embiid on that team. Embiid looks like he's in really good shape. He looks like he wants to play downhill, going to the rim, and that. I might, if I see that continue, I might revisit my projection for Joel Embiid. Ben Simmons is the next domino to fall there. He, from the free throw line, looked really calm, and he looked like the stroke was pretty fluid. So that was just an eye-opener for me because he's always had a sort of a hitch there. He definitely didn't look comfortable last year at the free throw line, and so that could be a huge difference maker for his value. The other things that kept me from ranking him highly is basically Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz is this odd duck that they've got a lot invested into. He handles the ball. When you start to pair Joel Embiid, who's going to command so much attention on the ball, and then Markelle Fultz, who they're going to stagger with Ben Simmons. It was just enough to make me wonder, okay, hey, is there the possibility for major leaps, statistically, in terms of attempts, in terms of assists, in terms of volume, in terms of what kind of gains he can make offensively to justify that sort of top 15 number that I'm seeing. And like you said, I don't do a ton of 9-cat stuff, so I haven't really been, deep into the 9-cat drafts yet. But I don't doubt it one bit that people are getting in there and drafting him 15 overall and not caring about turnovers, which a lot of 9-cat owners do, especially in head-to-head. So, roundabout way, I think like maybe if this free throw thing pans out, if I see, I don't know, 10 to 15 free throws out of Ben Simmons and his stroke looks calm, like I'm good with revisiting a free throw projection and bumping it up a couple percent. And for such a high volume guy, that could be something that moves him up the ranks a little bit. But as far as like, the hype, the sleeper, he's definitely not a sleeper, and he's definitely overdrafted right now.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that same way. It's hard when you've got a guy who's basically a punt guy in one category. It's almost impossible to make it all that high. I think the exception was probably Andre Drummond last year, who managed to improve his free throw shooting enough to...
Well, you brought up something interesting with that. That's probably another podcast, but these high volume free throw guys are improving. And the bad free throw shooting high volume guys, they're improving. And I feel like there's a story that like Lee Jenkins should write. Now I guess he's with the Clippers. He can't do it. But like, why are guys all of a sudden improving at the free throw line in really kind of, you would never think Andre Drummond would improve at the free throw line. Like Dwight Howard never improved. Shaq never improved, but there's something going on there where guys like Drummond, Clint Capella, Jordan even improved a little bit this season. So it's something to watch because you can pair these guys with these elite free throw shooters and really sort of it's a zigzaggy way to do it, but you can kind of get the best of all worlds where you get the big man stats that you're looking for, or in the case of a Ben Simmons, you get all sorts of stats, and then you pair him with somebody, I don't know,
like a Dame, I guess would be
Dame, Steph Curry, these guys that are high volume elite free throw shooters, or you put a bunch of them together, and then you can get the center position addressed, which this year, and it seems like this is going to be a trend going forward. The center position is just a mess. So many guys want to shoot threes now that their their field goal percentages are down. And it seems like the little bit of nastiness that's required to be a big time shot blocker just isn't quite there. So I think blocks and big man stats are at a premium this year and going forward.
Yeah, for sure. The blocks thing does feel, we started to see it happen a little bit last year as well, which segues to our next guy. I thought about maybe just going the Markelle Fultz route. We can loop back to Philly later in this podcast. We're talking about blocks right now. The next guy on my list is Miles Turner. And that one surprised the heck out of me because I thought after what was inarguably a disappointing season, he'd be someone that falls farther. He was number 55 on a per-game basis last year. This, again, is a 9-cat number. He only played 65 games, so that hurt his number. He just never seemed like he was fully there. He busted his arm apart trying to dunk too hard, and if that doesn't encapsulate your season, I don't know what does. And yet, we're still seeing him go in the early 30s, which 29 in the industry mock. I thought you'd see him fall into the late 30s, the 40s, maybe even the 50s, but people seem to have written off last year a little bit. So my question for you, Brew, is Miles Turner, if he's going in the early 30s, is he a sleeper? Is he overdrafted? Or are people right on the nose?
Yeah, he's overdrafted, and it kind of sucks because, he's sort of set up for being a value guy this year. Last year, obviously, he burnt. I guess one of the big questions of how do you get to be a big value guy, especially if you have a big name, you burn a lot of fantasy owners the year before, and you become what's called a post-hype guy. So you're sitting there and you're getting some preseason reports. Hey, Miles Turner, it looks like he's in a lot better shape than last year, with the murmurs around the league being, hey, this dude was out of shape. And that is what explains how he just didn't give you what you drafted for. And unfortunately, though, I think people forgot that last year was as bad as it was, because he is being drafted in that third round. And that is a bridge too far for me. And I'm actually encouraged by his preseason, the preseason reports. I want to see him more on film to see exactly how does improved fitness and physicality, does that impact his game? Because it's very well possible he just doesn't have the mental makeup to take his game to the next level of, I'm going to take 14, 15, 16 shots per game. That's not what we've seen. In fact, he regressed in that area last year. There's a lot of talk also in Indy about Kyle O'Quinn not being a part of the regular rotation. And that's in an attempt to get him and Domantas Sabonis more minutes together. We're also seeing odd reports out of Indy that your boy, Thaddeus Young, maybe possibly being phased out there. There was a interview with the team site that I thought was really revealing, and stuff from the team site is always a great, you kind of get a good window into the mind of the marketing department, so to speak. They were talking about how Thad's concerned about losing minutes in a playoff, or probably in a contract year. And that's, I don't know how to put my tinfoil hat on and do this the right way, but the fact that they kind of let out that he might be concerned about minutes, to me, sounds like a building that knows he might have reduced minutes this year. So if he goes down to 26 minutes, maybe it's possible that Miles Turner picks up those minutes, picks up better minutes, and has a little bit more, food at the table there. But still, we haven't seen a lick of him being better than last year. And last year, he killed owners. Your second-round draft pick brought back like seventh-round value and was a mess all season. So it's too rich for my blood, and it's one of those things. It's happening a lot in this year's fantasy landscape, where because of the lack of player movement, there's not as many unknown situations, and it's given people more time to focus on those unknown situations. In my opinion, I think that the public is going to perform better this year in relation to probably anything I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, and when you have an opportunity for a Turner to maybe start off with a 6th or 7th round ADP in a small market where only a few people hear about the, if he has improved his fitness, and kind of having a slow ramp up to people realizing that he is better than last year. This could have been a value guy, but he's not going to be. He's going to be overdrafted.
Damn it. All right, well, let me see if I can find someone. On this list here, I got to try to find somebody that you don't think is going to be overdrafted. So far, we're basically Donovan Mitchell was pretty close. The other two were on the overdrafted part of our discussion. Hey, before we get into the next name, this feels like a pretty good opportunity to talk about the fact that you mentioned the box score breakdown. It's back, baby. The box score breakdown is back. Adrian Benjamin's Neil Rochlani are hosting the box score breakdown, Hoopball's now second fantasy podcast. It'll be 3 days a week until the season starts, and then Monday through Friday, it'll come out at night after the games conclude. It's going to give you a breakdown of everything happened that day. You can make your decisions on your fantasy roster before the next morning. Beat all those other clowns in your league to the waiver wire with the box score breakdown. That felt pretty good, and that was not written down.
You're pretty good at that, Dan.
Yeah, that felt just right.
But all kidding aside, that's one of the most important show types that a fantasy site can have. I'm glad that we have that. I was doing it for a little bit. It's a lot of work. You have to be really good at instant takes, like stuff just happened a few minutes ago. How can you then sort of regurgitate that in a way that helps fantasy owners? Those two are definitely up for the job. If you haven't been listening to those guys, they completely know their stuff. So I'm thrilled that they've been able to take that on, and just sort of adding to the portfolio of things we do here. It's starting to round out, Dan.
Mm-hmm. It sure is. What were some of the other things we were going to mention? We still got your coupon code active for the draft guide. It's Haymaker. It's $3 off the draft guide at hoop-ball.com, Hay maker. Go use that. We got a lot of feedback on that one. It sounded like that was a well-utilized coupon code from our show 2 weeks ago, so maybe we'll get to inject a little extra life into that one now. The B150 is in the draft guide, folks. It was inserted into the draft guide on Monday. The B that stands for is the man we're talking to on today's podcast. Okay, I think I might have found one that you're going to say is being ever so slightly underdrafted. Like, there might still be some value on this one. I could be wrong, but I'm going to go with Kyle Anderson. Slow-mo. Is there any value left with slow-mo? I know he went relatively early in our industry mock. He actually went at 68 in that, which is earlier than I've seen him go in almost any other situation. But, I mean, he's not going quite that early in most drafts, or is he? Where have you seen him come off the board? And because this one you could actually call a sleeper if he's being underdrafted.
Yeah, something happened with, I think he became the sexy name amongst industry insiders early, and that pushed his ADP up for experts.
Damn it. I guessed wrong.
Well, I don't know what you guessed. I was looking at his ADP while you were talking, and it's currently in the 90 to 105 range.
Okay.
So, which, that's a lot of public leagues that are in there, and that I would expect that to rise. But I will say this, in these super competitive leagues that I'm in, I saw him go real early in the beginning, and he sort of faded. I think people sort of chickened out a little bit on him, not knowing what they've got. What I saw in Memphis for their preseason game, it was classic Kyle Anderson. I did not see any sort of difference in his physical makeup, in the way he's playing the game. And the interesting thing about him is you always wonder about a player changing teams. How is he going to fit in? And he is a guy that's one of his best qualities is that he fits in. And so he was just sort of doing his thing. And I looked at it and I was like, hey, everything is what it is. And so I think he's a value guy now.
Yay, I got one right. I guessed right. I wanted to get us a sleeper on this show, and I feel like we finally got one. And when you said his best quality is his ability to fit in, I just thought to myself, man, high school must have been sweet for Kyle Anderson.
Well, yeah, I think anytime you're going to head over to UCLA as a scholarship guy, you're probably doing okay in high school.
Yeah, he's just fitting in, man. That's all you want to do in high school, just fit in. Don't make too much of it. Oh, so this is wonderful. I'm going to throw a ticker tape parade. I finally found one on our list that's actually...
You finally unearthed the value?
I unearthed the value. So when I said to you, Aaron Bruski...
Can I throw a little something out there too?
All right, what you got?
We're not giving the best of the best. And Kyle Anderson's a pretty damn good pick. Like, you're going to get some serious value off of Kyle Anderson in your drafts, especially in a public league. Holy moly. Like, when I say public, I mean like beginner to intermediate. Like, if he's going 104 or later in some leagues, because, sometimes people do go later, you could really, really get a lot of value out of Kyle Anderson. And he's not anywhere close to the HB6.
He was number 76 on a per game basis in 9-cat last year, and he took 6 shots per game. That's crazy. And I think that might be the lowest field goal attempt number of anybody inside the top 100. I'm going to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure that that's the case because I don't think anybody's under like 8 inside the top 50. And so then you got Kyle Anderson, who the lowest field goal attempt number inside the top 100 at 5.9 last year. So we got one. We got a sleeper. So when I said to you, Aaron Bruski, is Kyle Anderson a sleeper? Your answer is...
Hell yeah.
Outstanding. All right, this one's going on the list. Hold on, let me type this one down on the list here. Just, clicking away my typewriter. I got to push it back to the left side here and punch it in. Okay. Here's one that I actually don't know the answer to. I'm not going to even try to guess. Gary Harris. I don't know if you thought I was going to bring that one up on today's podcast. He's an interesting one because to me, he feels like the guy that everyone says Al Horford actually gets this award more than anybody else, but Gary Harris is on the top 3 list of when you see these questions on Twitter that's like, who's the best player in the league that nobody knows is a good player? Gary Harris is always on that list. But if everybody answers that question with Gary Harris, doesn't that then mean that people know he's a good player? It's sort of this weird self-killing prophecy. And now we're seeing Gary, who, by the way, I don't know that his hamstrings have ever been 100% in his life, going in the industry mock. He went at 26. For a guy who somehow...
It'd be interesting to see that mock happen again.
Yeah,
after this most recent, time off with injury, because that's the thing with Gary Harris. That's the only thing with Gary Harris. That's literally the only thing with Gary Harris that you care about. There's no concern about the way he plays, how he's going to produce, what his overall value to the team is. There's no questions there. It's just, is he going to stay healthy? I bet if you did that mock again, he would go closer to, 3rd or 4th round. And I bet, looking at the ADP numbers that we most recently pulled, 48 in 8 cat and 74.
No way.
In 9 cat.
I'm not buying that one. I've never seen him go later than 40.
Actually, I got that backwards. I got it backwards.
Oh,
71 in 8 cat. And whatever I said the other number was for
40 something. Okay, I believe that, because then you've got some beginner leagues where he's going in the 50s and that pulls the number down a little bit. Okay, so ADP of let's say 40-ish. Again, a guy that I saw going in the 20s. Maybe let's even conservatively say early 30s. Is there any value left for a guy that, over his career, he's played 4 seasons of basketball now, and he has 1 year where he made it to the 70-game mark. He has only 1 year where he made it to the 68-game mark in those 4 seasons. Do we actually believe he can make it through a season? Because if so, then I feel like you're going to tell me he's a sleeper, and if not, I think you're going to tell me he's getting overdrafted. Which one is it?
I don't think he's a sleeper.
A breakout guy. Sorry.
Yeah, I think he's just a nice value. I think that it's funny how these preseason injuries work. You got to really, really watch them closely to understand truly what's going on. To all of your earlier points about games missed, I'm sure the Nuggets, and in his position, he's one of the guys they just can't lose. Him and Will Barton, they are the heart and soul of that team, and if one of them goes down, they have a massive hole that they have to fill with guys they don't want to fill it with. And so I just think that they're being extremely careful. It's not going to change my opinion on his injury risk. He's not all of a sudden less risky because of something like this, but you're going to see a softening in his draft position. I think you're going to start seeing him go kind of late in the 4th round in competitive leagues, and in these intermediate to beginner leagues, I would say, 60, 70 is not out of the question. And you're going to earn, say you take him in the 4th round. I think there's a great, probably 70% chance that he returns that value. Then, a la Anthony Davis, these guys can't not play a lot of games their entire career. So you got to kind of ask yourself, well, when is it most likely that they're going to have a season where they play 75, 78, or like Bradley Beal, 82 games? It's when. So you walk this line when predicting how much a guy is going to play. Okay, all the data we have on him is that he's an injury risk. Okay, he's also young. What's the odds that he continues to play 70 games per year for his entire career? It's not good. So you kind of got to use some reverse psychology there, but you really do have to look at the actual injury situation itself and determine, what do you believe? Bradley Beal, we bet against him, and he went in and he played all 82 and he killed it. So, but with Gary, I think that you're looking at a really good chance of making even money on that bet, with the opportunity to get more.
I'm sure people are going to be like, why aren't you guys talking about John Collins and Jarrett Allen? Well, we basically talked about those two guys 2 weeks ago. Do you want to do a 45-second recap? I don't want to spend too much time on those dudes.
John Collins is going to live up to the hype. Sad to say. It's because, some of the John Collins hype was really sophomoric. It was like, hey, he's going to play 40 minutes a game. And, like, no, he's not going to play 40, but he's going to play enough. And barring some major change in the distribution of his stats, he is going to live up to that ADP. And then Jared Allen, I think you've seen a softening in the market. I think that you've seen people sort of realize, like, the hype has gotten carried away. People have remembered that Kenny Atkinson is Kenny Atkinson. He's still going way too early in drafts. He's going around 50 to 60. I don't like that one bit. I do think that he's going to finish with mid-round value. Hopefully there's just a rebound effect in there where owners can start to get him at 70. I don't think that's going to happen, though.
Thank you. That was a perfect recap on those guys. Okay, so we are now into I think we're around the 45-minute mark of the show, give or take. I want to try to knock out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 6 names left on my list. You ready for a little lightning round? Are they sleeper action?
We go a minute a name.
We can go a minute. We can go minute 30. Make it like a live draft. Luka Doncic.
Okay. Luka. Oh boy. Luka is a huge name in Sacramento because they passed and I think he should have been first overall. But I will say this, watching the film from the first game, he has serious athleticism issues and his handles aren't where they need to be yet. But the biggest factor for him is they are not giving him the ball in Luka Doncic optimized sets, at least not yet. He played like a guy who was trying to fit in. He needs a lot of pick and roll. He needs to be able to get downhill with the assistance of other players. And the problem is he's not going to be able to beat guys with the frequency that his ADP suggests he will be able to do. And also he will struggle in relation to preseason prognostications as far as rookie of the year and whether or not the Kings should have passed on him and, everybody else that didn't get him, all that good stuff. Like, unless they turn the team over to him, and they're not going to because they've got vets all over the place. They got Dennis Smith Jr. He was standing in the corner quite a bit. I think they're going to run stuff through him. I just wonder, like, with the deficiencies in the stat set defensively and, not having the volume that he's going to need to have, he's definitely getting way overdrafted. I do have him inside the top 100, but not by much. And if I continue to see the struggle of separation, he barely beat J-Ham. Justin Hamilton, and everybody showed that clip on the internet. Like it was like, oh yeah, he just burned him. It was like, dude, it took him the entire driveway and no help defense whatsoever. And any player who's good offensively should be able to burn Justin Hamilton if they get unlimited time to dribble and make as many pump fakes and up fakes as they want. And it took him every single one to get that off. Everybody's like celebrating that. It's like, whoa, no, that's not good. He needs more wiggle. He needs better handles, and he needs an offense that lets him get downhill. He's not going to get that in Dallas.
So overdrafted?
Overdrafted.
Number 2. Oh, go ahead.
But overdrafted. No. It's unfortunate because I think like there's a lot invested in Luka Doncic around the league as far as being a number 1 pick. And I think that landing spot is going to work against him. And I think people are going to zigzag too hard and overreact on his slow start. And they're going to all of a sudden think that, he isn't the guy he is, but he is the guy he is. He's just going to take a little bit longer than people think.
Let's go with a couple other rookies here while I'm in lightning mode. The 2 on the Knicks, Kevin Knox, Mitchell Robinson. Anything there?
Unfortunately, Knox needs to show us that he can steal and block. And I don't know that he's going to be able to do that fast enough in the preseason for me to get on the hype train. I think he's going to get tons of minutes. I think that it's questionable if Kristaps Porzingis plays at all this season.
Agree.
So it's like somebody's got to play, and they had this weird conversation about like, who should start at small forward, and then his name popped up there, and it's like, okay, well, what about power forward? Like, what are you guys doing? Are you going to play Lance Thomas 40 minutes? Like, let's be real, but it is New York. Crazy things can happen. I don't know that Fizdale is, somebody that we can say, oh, this guy doesn't have drama with his lineups because, he's basically been a drama guy that got kicked out of Memphis. the question about the stat set or what drive my decision not to have him high in the B150. As far as Mitchell Robinson goes, let's make sure he can actually handle being on a basketball court before we draft him. I don't know where somebody took him the other day, but he's being called like a must draft player, and let's just make sure he can actually handle 10 minutes per game at the NBA level before crowning him. I got him on the B150, but he's in the last spot.
Hey,
it's like a courtesy spot. And actually the notes say, let's see if he can play basketball first. But no, theoretically, if he can play basketball, then he can rack up some big man stats, and he's worth watching.
Mo Bamba, the other rookie on my list. Talking to Philip Rossman-Reich, he thought there might be something there towards the end of the season. That's the feeling I got. Overdrafted, underdrafted, properly drafted. Where's he sitting in all this?
Overdrafted, and he's an example of big man moving away from the rim, losing fantasy value. It was funny also watching some of the commentary out of that first game. I mean, he got taken to the shed by Joel Embiid, and it was like it kind of encapsulated the problems he's going to have defensively. Yes, he's tall, he can move, he can block shots, but he has no center of gravity whatsoever. He's going to get just beat down, and they don't need him to play right now. So if he's not getting you the field goal percentage and he's not being an inside terror, I think, especially with the low minutes and the fact that he'll burn a hole in your roster, I just do not see drafting him and hanging on.
Two left. I'm hoping one of these is a sleeper or an underdraft. DeJounte Murray.
I think it's DeJounte, Dan.
Is it DeJounte? Are we all right? Fair enough.
It's DeJounte Murray. He's just sort of hanging around. I didn't like what I saw in the first preseason game out of him. I didn't see that sort of snap or polish that you want to see out of a guy that's so hyped, that's got so much opportunity, and it makes me wonder if they will turn the keys over to him quickly, and I think the answer to that is no. So I think things could start slow for him. He has slid a tiny bit in drafts in relation to the early hype. I mean, there was some early hype that he was like a top 50 guy. He's definitely going late in public drafts. His ADP is over 110 in let's see, that's 8 cat and then in 9 cat as well. Yeah, so a lot of value to be had here. The question is who in your league is going to bite first? And there's at least one person that reads Hoop Ball. There's at least 3 people that read Roto World. It's you're going to have to dodge those guys to get them. So where are you going to grab them is the question. Say 8th round, no matter what, I think you can grab them. The question is should you do it in the 7th round? Probably. 6th round, it starts to get to be a question mark there. I think there's going to be frustration early on, though.
He went at 72 in the 9-cat industry mock, which is the last pick of the 6th round. So that actually falls right in with what you were talking about. And the last one on my list, because Murray ended up as sort of a maybe value, is Markelle Fultz. You mentioned him in your discussion of Philly earlier on in the show. He got moved into the starting lineup for the Sixers in the preseason. We don't know exactly whether that's going to hold or, if it's going to come back maybe mid-season. If it doesn't hold now, he's not a floor spacer yet. He's a creator type. Markelle Fultz, I'm assuming his ADP is going to be moving up with the news that he's starting in Philadelphia, but what are you seeing on him? Is there any sleeper appeal left with Fultz, who, last year, you want to talk about guys getting burned, he had the yips and really didn't play at all. So what are you seeing on him?
Yeah, I don't think I can bet big on a guy who, I watched him drain a corner 3, and of course everybody went nuts and the announcers drooled all over it and Twitter drooled all over it. He short-armed and long-armed it at the same time. It was really hard to watch. Kudos to him for not backing down and working through the yips. And I do think he's going to continue to get better. It's just going to be hard. I think he's going to go through a lot of ups and downs. I think that he is going to get that, I can't say it with certainty, but it feels like he's going to get that starting job. And it feels like they're going to give him 25 minutes per game no matter what. in 25 minutes per game, what can he do? Well, I think he can be a late round value. I think he could probably plod to a little bit more. But the question is going to be like when he's having top 150 games, top 175 games, and things aren't looking so good. And there's a couple ways his value can tank. If the free throw situation continues to be bad, that would be one way to really kill off his value. And then if he's not able to get the money that really are at the heart of his value, he's a pretty good money counter guy. If he can't do that for whatever reason, and things happen sometimes are outside of players' control to a certain degree, system changes, where you're playing on the court, who you're playing with on the court, and if he's not really truly able to make 3-pointers, then that'll take away the upside proposition. I'm fine taking him with the last round pick. If you want to get aggressive, if you feel good, in the, say, I don't know, 12th or 13th round, I think you can give him a look, but no, I'm definitely not on the hype train.
And that's the list, everybody. That ends our game of Aaron Bruski, Is This Person a Sleeper? Which, again, it doesn't cover all of these players because some of them are guys that have done good things in the past, but it's the fastest way to come up with a title for an in-podcast game. What were the other things we were going to talk about before we wrap this thing up? We had other stuff at Hoop Ball.
I can't remember, Dan. I think we covered box score breakdown was a big one. We got, Bruski 150. We talked about that. What else did we talk about? We got it all, Dan.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we got it all.
We're good. I just, for everybody that's out there, enjoy this time of the year. It goes so fast. And next thing you know, we're going to be doing weekly lineup shows, doing in-season premium stuff. So, if you bought the draft guide, you could take a look at the in-season premium stuff. If for whatever reason you haven't bought the in-season premium stuff, you want it and you've already bought the draft guide, hit us up, hit support@hoop-ball.com. We can get you into a season pass, which is the cheapest way to get both the draft guide and the in-season premium stuff, which covers you basically before the draft. And then after the draft, you get just an untold amount of access and questions and information and tools and all sorts of good stuff. And I think, Dan, that covers it. But just enjoy this time of the year. It's so great. These next 2 weeks are so great, and they go by so fast. So just kind of take a little bit, stop and smell the roses.
So let me ask you this, because I have to, I got to fight for the little guy. Does the Haymaker coupon code, does that work for the season pass as well?
If it doesn't, I will write a sternly worded letter to people that can make it happen. We'll make it happen, Dan.
All right, very good. Haymaker is the coupon code. Go get something fun at Hoop Ball. Season Pass, Draft Guide. Those are the two big ones right now. B150 is in the Draft Guide, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you've been waiting for, and it's there. Aaron Bruski, Big Boss Man. Thank you, good sir.
Sayonara.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.